Launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off about OAK Network and automation on the blockchain. Today we have David Finkelstein, head of growth on the project. David, thanks for coming in and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jay. Happy to be here.
Now, David, I want to start with, I hope is what's going to be a simple question here, but what is a head of growth and how are you defining growth at OAK Network?
The head of growth and kind of what I handle, at least at OAK Network, is just about anything that's not tech related or anything that's going to get more eyes and more people interested in the project. So things that kind of fall under my purview or my umbrella are going to be the marketing efforts, absolutely community, which is probably number one in priority for me right now, and probably will remain that way for some time. But definitely also partnerships, which is kind of right there alongside the community and other projects that we get to work with. So it's a little bit of salesy type action, even though there's no contracts to be signed or anything like that in Web3. But yeah, anything that's going to get eyes on the project, that's going to get people excited about automation, that's what I'm trying to achieve.
And what sort of tools or strategies are you employing to make this happen?
Obviously, we do quite a bit in Discord. The server is very active there, and I've got a couple of community managers who are really all-stars at understanding how to get people excited and get people interacting with the project.
Sure.
Definitely on the partnership side, we just brought on a new team member there who's an all-star as well, who's going to be helping to drive. There's quite a few different types of partnerships at OAK. There's definitely the Parachains that we want to work with and going cross-chain to make sure that automation is available basically wherever it's useful. We want to connect to as many chains and projects as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And then, being active on Twitter, writing articles. My researcher is a PhD candidate out of Australia, and he's an incredible writer, but for OAK, you might be able to imagine that the articles tend to be a little bit more technical in nature, a little bit more kind of value-driven, more than they are kind of traditional marketing-driven. We want to,
right? Yeah,
we want to get devs excited, right? We want to get devs, excited to work with us and really be kind of pumped to build new things, because OAK's bringing new functionality that really doesn't exist anywhere else, and we would need to kind of tell that story and get people emotionally connected to the idea of all this new cool stuff you're going to be able to create now that OAK's launching as a parachain.
That's an incredible amount of work that you've taken on here. What I'm hearing is you're trying to build communities, you're also trying to build connections with other parachains and other projects, and you're trying to get devs excited to come work with you guys. The crazy thing about OAK is that you guys have kind of come up from nowhere in a very, very short period of time. I'm wondering how you fell into this line of work and what you were doing before that prepared you for this sprint that you've been on.
Yeah, so my background is in traditional finance, actually, mostly, with a little bit of kind of startup work there in between. Sales, business development was the major focus. I think where I really kind of always excelled, though, never being like kind of the number one salesperson. I was always the kind of number two or number three, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Okay.
But I had this sort of philosophy about how to get people excited about things and these emotional connections that you have to tell, these ideas that people don't change their behavior unless they know they have a problem, right? So some of this is kind of classical marketing sales type talk, but I always saw it from a very high, like kind of 30,000 foot views. And I thought about it a lot, and I spent a lot of my time reading about it. And it just always felt very compelling to me to have these ideas about how to get people excited about an idea. And I think that was, it was actually kind of the genesis of my journey into Web3 when I got put onto a Vitalik talk about Ethereum back in 2017. I was like, wow, this could change the future. And sure. I think that was probably the start of my my kind of I don't know exactly how you call it, my evangelism around the space, right? I got used to telling people who really didn't care at all about decentralization and kind of bringing people into the fold, right? So that experience probably helped quite a bit as well. But yeah, that's kind of the background, and I've spent a little bit of time working with marketing systems and things like that. So I had these ideas about the different types of communication, whether you're doing one-to-many, one-to-one, many-to-one, and that's kind of how I delineated my team in terms of the skill sets that they needed to really kind of effectively do the job well. And I think it's been going well. Like you said, the public facing bit is definitely been a sprint, but thankfully our CEO Chris has been working in blockchain for quite some time. The dev team is really second to none, and without that, my job would be exceedingly difficult. So I'm really grateful for those team members as well.
That's awesome. And what is it about the OAK story that got you excited enough to try to build a community around it?
I always get very excited about like the dreams of decentralization, and not only just like kind of as this like idea that like lives in space where we might be right now, right? But kind of more tactically, the problems it can solve for people. I think one of the analogies that I use frequently when I'm talking to partners, because one of the questions I get is like, what's the point, right? What's the point of decentralization automation? Like, who really cares?
Yeah.
It's fun to look back and look at Bitcoin and say, who cares about decentralized money, until the banks started, acting the way they did, and who really cares about, decentralized compute until people start getting deplatformed, right? So it's one of these things where it's not a problem till it is, right? But I have this idea, and they tell this story at OAK about how your keys, your coins is great, but if you don't own the future plans for those coins, then you really don't own the money fully either, right? So being able to do things like payroll or participate in a DEX that's just as good as a centralized exchange, because you have access to limit orders, you have access to iceberg orders, or those other things that people just kind of, I wouldn't say take for granted, but I would say are, kind of used to in traditional spaces, being able to bring that functionality to people who really need it, whether it's because they need to remain anon or the services just aren't available.
Right.
I thought to myself, wow, this could really change the world. And that's a big reason why I'm here.
Yeah, I saw in your docs that you guys aim for the everyday consumer to take decentralized automation for granted. Maybe you could give us some examples of what OAK can do and the sort of features that people might not even be aware they're using with a blockchain.
Right now, we're launching the Parachain and getting ready to have our first set of triggers, which are going to be time triggers and scheduled transactions. So those, when said technically, can seem kind of boring, but I think the very close use cases that are going to get people very excited are going to be things like dollar cost averaging strategies. We're also going to be doing things like payroll for DAOs, which is extremely cumbersome right now, right?
Yes.
There's even been there's been some fun talk with the other projects about really creative stuff like automatic wallet recovery. Suppose, you get hit by a bus and you want to make sure your coins go to your son or your grandparents or whoever's happens to be in crypto that you trust. We are able to, trigger those things automatically in the future, so you can do succession planning and things of that nature.
Whoa.
That was on a Talisman talk. Which came out of nowhere. So it's been really fun actually exploring all the different things that other people come up with, because while, I'm the head of growth and I think about this stuff all day long, I can never be as smart as the entire ecosystem. And every time I talk to another project, they go, wait a second, can I do this? And I'm like, yeah, let's build it. What do you want to do? We're the infrastructure. We're here to be the rails, and the product that you guys want to build using automation, we're here to facilitate that.
So you say that you guys are the infrastructure. Do you have any plans to build your own user interfaces, like where I can say dollar cost average into something? Or are you guys more looking to integrate with other projects building in this space?
Yeah, I think it's theoretically possible that there could be some sort of OAK interface. I think when I think about those types of opportunities, it's more kind of from a dashboard informational perspective. But we've been talking to other projects that are interested in building those things as well. So one of the great things about Polkadot is really, it allows people to really focus on their core competency and let everyone kind of do their best work. And we think for us, that's building incredible automation that's, totally trustless, extremely reliable, both from a, uptime standpoint, but also an execution standpoint. And to be blunt, that's a full-time job, even for the top tier devs. So very excited to see that, there's other great DEXs coming out. There's other great, NFT platforms and protocols coming out that will be able to use our automation, and you'll just, again, like you said, take it for granted that, your favorite DEX now has limit orders. And while I, as the head of growth, I'd like to have a little sticker somewhere that's powered by OAK, but if not, the network is still secured by the transaction and the burning of tokens, and that'll all happen in the background. And I think that's the fun part of it, when you don't need to be hyper technical to access, these DeFi yields where people have money sitting in checking accounts. And just because, you're not a Solidity dev doesn't mean you shouldn't have access to better tools that I think everyone is probably interested in if they just knew about it and could get access to it.
I saw you guys partnered with Mangata. At this early stage, what are you looking for when you're searching for parachain partners in the space?
First and foremost, we probably look at the team. We want to make sure that we believe in them and that they have the ability to build what they say they're going to build. Thankfully, in Polkadot, that's not too much of a problem. There's plenty of incredible teams out there, but it is the first kind of gut check that we do, because I don't think it's a surprise to anyone to say that some teams don't end up delivering, and there's a number of reasons that could happen. And I'm not trying to knock on any particular project, but as an infrastructure play, we don't really have fallbacks or anything like that. We want to make sure that the team is strong and that they'll be delivering on the promises, so that basically the automation actually becomes useful. Because if it doesn't become useful, then OAK and Turing are not useful, and that'll be a problem. Beyond that, I definitely take a look at community. I love fervent communities that really believe in what the project's doing. It's another great gut check to see that they understand and kind of have the same values that we do. I love projects that are trying to create great functionality for users and like kind of seamless experiences, because that's, like you said, a big value proposition of OAK. If you have to have this really convoluted, strange, like DeFi product experience to get to where you're going, I just think you're less likely to use it and less likely to do that world-changing stuff that we're trying to do.
Yeah, OAK is such a fascinating project. Once you just start to think about that automation piece a little bit, you just wonder like why this hasn't existed in the past. One of the use cases I read about, or it just struck me as so obvious, was this subscription model, right? Which is something we do on Web 2 all the time. Maybe you can explain to us why that hasn't been done before on the Ethereum smart contract model, and what's different now that makes what OAK's doing possible.
It's two main things. It's XCM and Substrate, which is a big reason why we're here and why I'm super bullish on Polkadot. But to give my kind of smooth brain growth team answer, if you think about other transactions that you have on other blockchains, you have to sign it at the moment that the transaction goes off, and then it immediately fires off and goes into the queue or wherever it may be. Right. And that's just restrictions of the way the EVM was built. And clearly EVM was orders of magnitude better than Bitcoin in terms of functionality. But we believe there's still room for improvement. And I think this is one of those examples of where the improvement is really kind of showing its strength, because we were able to use Substrate to build a brand new blockchain. And, people ask us, did you really have to be a parachain? And we're like, yeah, we do, because we had to build this new blockchain that has this event registry. But what it allows for is two things. One, we have this incredible kind of base Substrate to build this new blockchain, which allows for the event registry and the triggers to function properly. And then I think also very importantly, the cross-chain messaging is extremely important, because blockchains have limited compute time, they have limited space. And if for say, some DEX wanted to add our functionality, the amount of compute time and resources that it would take even to run automation would get exhausted very quickly. It's just, you can't do everything in one spot. And I think that's one of the very, kind of exciting things about the multi-chain future, is that it's not just, everyone gets to work on their one best thing and that will allow like better teams. That is definitely one part of it. But part of it's also just the technical restrictions of trying to run everything on one blockchain.
I see.
You're going to end up with Bitcoin very quickly or Ethereum gas fees. And I don't think anyone wants that. I don't know anyone who's happy with Ethereum gas fees.
You said something about event registry there. I also read something about an event listener. How does the blockchain know that events have happened? Are you guys doing an Oracle solution, or how are you solving that?
We have a pretty open architecture in terms of what could trigger the events. But we created like this new event type. There's this memory type, right? It's stored on the blockchain so that it sits there in a decentralized nature until the trigger goes off. I think depending on the use case, we could see different types of triggers available. And, we're working very closely with partners to see what makes the most sense. Because theoretically, you could have a price trigger that comes from a DEX, right? All that data is now fully decentralized. We can use something like Subquery, which is one of our partners who's indexing it to make sure that goes off. Or we could just have an Oracle like API 3 or a chain link that says, okay, the price is now this, execute the order. I think there's, definitely advantages and disadvantages to both. Depending on, do you care about decentralization more? Do you care about fees more? Do you care more about speed and accuracy based upon, whatever your limit tolerance is for those types of metrics? And the good news is we can do all of it. It's all theoretically possible. The bad news as the head of growth is it takes a lot of time to really dig in and see what the best solution is to make sure that we're providing the best user experience. Because, like I said, over and over again on this call, and I probably won't say it, that's really what it's all about, to make sure that the user experience is seamless and effective and, most important, trustless/trustworthy, depending on how you look at it.
Okay, so I'm curious about governance. What role does governance play in an infrastructure project?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, obviously, but we do have governance planned, and we'll have a council and being able to run upgrades and things. I think probably the two main governance aspects that I think about when I think about governance for Oak is one, at a certain point, it will be required to connect to new chains. We want to fully decentralize this thing, and we want the community to be involved. So
Gotcha.
if there's a new project that's super exciting and you want to get them onto Oak because they need automation, the community should be able to decide that. Or if, alternatively, there's something that looks a little suspicious, that should be able to surface through governance as well, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's also, upgrades in terms of what kind of new functionality we might be able to dream up in the future. I've said the three that are on the roadmap, and I'm very excited about it. But one of the cool things is definitely what we don't know yet, right? The unknown unknowns. I'm very excited to see what happens with Oak. We're sprinting fast, absolutely, but I'm just not sure there is really a finish line with Web3.
No doubt. And one of the next big steps you guys have ahead of you will be your Polkadot parachain. I know you're just getting going on Kusama there. Are you guys in any rush to launch your chain on Polkadot, or are you guys going to sit back for a little bit and figure things out?
Yeah, no, unfortunately for my sleep schedule, Oak doesn't really sit back, but probably probably good for everyone else who's very excited about the project. Yeah. We tentatively have like a Q4 Polkadot Crowdloan planned.
Wow.
Obviously, it's all dependent on making sure everything with Turing is running smoothly, and knock on wood, everything has been going extremely well so far. That's in no small part thanks to the community and people like yourself supporting us and making sure that we have access to the things that we need. It really, just to dial back to that head of growth role and what it is, quite a bit of it is this kind of circular nature of, getting involved with the community, then the community then reaches out to other projects to come talk to us, who then we get to get involved with their community, right? And it's this flywheel mechanism that's really been flying. And, while I do appreciate the kind words about how we've been sprinting, I do want to just have a quick moment there to thank everyone who supported us, because those type of things help everything really speed up and move faster. Having an extremely successful Crowdloan like we did makes us confident that we can keep growing and we can hit our goals, because the idea is really to have, like I said, automation everywhere, and you can't do that as far as we're concerned without being on Polkadot and Kusama. So it really makes sense for us to be both places as soon as possible and offer that automation to, again, anyone who finds value in it.
Amazing. What's that development cycle going to look like when you have both parachains running? Yeah,
we are doing it. Funny, I was on a call earlier today. It's like the quote unquote traditional style, or traditional as of 2 weeks ago, right? Where the Turing network will be the canary network. And, I think it's fun watching all the different strategies out there. I think that's really one of the brilliant things about Web3. Everyone gets to try their own thing, and the cream should rise to the top. But for us, I think it makes quite a bit of sense to have features launched kind of earlier on the Turing network. But the idea being that structurally, there's not quite a lot of difference depending if you more highly prioritize feature sets. Turing might be a little bit more interesting. If you prioritize extremely high security, Polkadot might be more interesting. So I think Moonbeam and Moonriver have kind of made the public statement that that's their goal, and I think they're an incredible project. I think it makes quite a bit of sense for us as well to do something similar.
Do you guys have any plans or in any talks with Moonriver, Moonbeam to integrate with their parachain and open automation to all the EVM projects that are launching?
He's going to downright ask me for alpha, huh? He's going to get out there and do it.
I played this game once with Logan Seether. It was .summa partnerships, firm or deny.
Yeah. So I guess I'll be political and neither confirm nor deny.
Okay.
Well, I'll say this though. I think probably people who have listened to me talk before know that I'm willing to push up just about as far as I can to alpha as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I'll say that we are in communication with pretty much all the parachains that we think we should be. Most of the ones that everyone's heard of. The only caveats are, of course, the newer ones that are coming up already quickly behind us or launching alongside with us. I'm doing my best to get in touch with everyone as much as I possibly can. But it's one of those things everyone's talking about it, right? It's like resources. And then I don't just mean money. I mean like the dev resources and the time resources. And the cool thing is there's so much being built. The frustrating thing is everyone is so busy. So the idea is to be everywhere. I think hopefully that's enough to scoop me past this one.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. David, when you're looking out across the .sama landscape, what really excites you? And how do you see Polkadot incorporating itself with the wider blockchain space?
I mean, there's so much that's exciting. I mean, the new XCM developments are particularly exciting for OAK, obviously, so that we can really get our full functionality up and running.
Yep.
I think one of the things that we talk about internally, especially with my research, who kind of keeps me up to date on the broader space as I get bogged down on strategy and kind of smaller conversations. The Kusama Polkadot bridge is extremely exciting to kind of be able to connect the ecosystems. I think the new kind of more specialized projects, I've heard Kabocha's name pop up a couple of times. Super interesting to come out of Edgeware.
Yes.
I think the Mangata partnership, super interesting. 100% DEX focused gasless, these like kind of more niche products, because while I love the Akalas and the Moonbeams of the world, and I think it's really important to have those big hubs, one of the fun things about the shared security model is that you can have these kind of smaller niche products bootstrap themselves, right? That wouldn't be able to get access to these types of feature sets, for example, OAK by themselves. It's just too expensive to spin up your own chain. Going cross chain can get very expensive. It can get very dangerous, as we've seen with a couple hacks in the past months or so. And not everyone's got the bags to back that up, right? And thankfully some do, and I'm very happy to see them in the ecosystem. But for me, it's really interesting to see this kind of like more niche or niche like product set that Polkadot allows for, which it's clear that the team at Parity and Web3 Foundation have spent a lot of time thinking about. I think while I'm very bullish on the broader ecosystem, I think these smaller projects are going to be a lot of what kind of accelerates what might be a really big year for .sama. And then as far as kind of to the broader ecosystem, I mean, it's happening, right? Like USDT is here. Super excited about that. Bridges are happening with Wormhole. You can see the interest really building in Polkadot and Kusama, and some of it's kind of palpable, right? Some of it's just kind of a feeling, and then some of these big announcements like USDT, which is going to allow for really incredible stuff. Because I know that on our side, there's people that we pay in USDT, and up until they came, it was like, what am I going to do? Set up a USDC account, like try to use ASD? It's like them being here, no matter what you think about it, it is, highly used, and in a space that's just, and I don't mean Polkadot particularly, I mean Web3 in general is starved for resources versus the amount of ideas that are out there. I think it's great the more collaboration that happens, because it allows, one, OAK to be more places, but two, allows people the freedom of choice to use what they like, right? And that's kind of like the big theme of governance anyways, right? If you can give people choice and the freedom to do what they want, I think that's rarely a bad thing.
How about some challenges you see standing between where we are today and that decentralized future that excites you so much?
Obviously, there's the kind of political environment which Masari talks about very frequently. I think there's always going to be those things on the ground and walled gardens that make it difficult. I think there's definitely some less than thrilling entrants that happen here and there, but honestly, the story that I tell is really the inevitability. I think there's plenty of challenges out there, and Lord knows I've been hearing them since I started telling people to buy Ether, the random internet money that just keeps going up for no reason at all. I'm like, it's all made up, and people don't want to believe that sometimes, right? But for all the challenges that I think that are out there, everything from politics down to just having enough devs that understand Rust, right? Like there's a plethora that you could talk about, but the pull is just so strong. The value proposition is so large, and I think you're already starting to see like kind of a mini brain drain kind of across the world from larger institutions, from the people who are kind of seeing the writing on the wall, that I'm just not particularly concerned about them. I mean, I know they'll come up, and it probably won't happen as fast as I'd like it to. But when you see something like Web3 and you see all that it offers, and you see the big picture of what it means to own your own money and things of that nature, it's hard to see a world where it's not ubiquitous.
Man, you get me excited about it now, and I think about it all day as well. What can we expect from Turing and OAK coming up, let's say in the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, so Turing is producing blocks, and like I said, we've got the time functionality there for time triggers, which if you think about one-time payments, and then like you also mentioned, subscriptions is a very exciting thing.
Yes.
Dollar cost averaging is a really big one.
Yep.
I think one I didn't mention that I'm super excited about, especially with all the stable coins coming in, is also portfolio rebalancing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I know I'm not the only one who like looks at their wallet or their DeFi platform, and I'm like, I have no idea what's actually in here. Like, I cannot go back through all these LPs to check out each token to know what it is. But with people like Talisman coming up and showing fiat balances and things, I think it's one thing to have the option to do what you want to do, and it's another thing to have the knowledge to do what you want to do. And that's why I'm really excited for projects that are kind of not only allowing people the freedom to do what they want to do with their coins and their money and their plan, like OAK, but also the visibility to actually understand what's going on, right? To take profits and be a smart trader and to do it automatically, so you don't need to be watching charts all day long, which I probably do more than I should anyways as the head of growth, right? But but you do those things. So that's part of it. Price triggers is going to be right after that. So definitely check out Mangata, and we'll be, I'm sure, making other partnership announcements to allow for that DEX functionality, whether it be limit orders so you can actually sleep at night, right? Stop loss orders and things of that nature, or iceberg orders for all the whales out there who want to remain anon as well. So quite a bit of functionality there coming up.
Unbelievable. Well, David, it was so awesome having you up here today. You're a total pro, man. And it's just great to hear all about OAK and Turing. Thank you for all you're doing, and send our gratitude to the team as well. It's very exciting to get this automation woven into everything else that's getting built. And we wish you all the luck in the months to come. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm always excited to be here. Wouldn't be the growth graph. I didn't do the call to action, right? Follow us on Twitter, get into the Discord. There's fun stuff going on. I promise, even though we're an infrastructure project, we act a little bit more like a marketing project at some time. So come hang out. My DMs are always open. If you have something interesting to say, feel free to reach out to me, no matter what it may be. I'm always trying to respond and get involved with the community as well. So yeah, thanks, Jay. Really appreciate the time. My pleasure.